How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for what I think will be a very interesting 2 hours here on Wrestling Observer Live. First of all, the NWA TNA pay-per-view show is going on as we speak, and we'll be updating that show as it goes on. The show is not even in the first match yet. I believe they're going to open with a 20-man X Division Gauntlet match, although they haven't actually gotten anyone in the ring, and we'll be taking your phone calls at 1-800-878-PLAY. And boy, let me tell you something. We got a lot to talk about this week. Just an incredible amount of news. Last week, of course, we had, I'm doing a show tonight. We're doing a show live, even though there's a pay-per-view, and we usually don't do that. That's because it's 3 straight weeks of pay-per-views, and next week, of course, being Survivor Series, which is quite an interesting show, because it feels like there's less interest in this Survivor Series than any Survivor Series, perhaps ever, but certainly in many, many years. The advanced ticket sales in Cleveland are horrible, and that's not good. And there's a lot about WWE that's going on. Of course, everyone probably knows by now that 10 wrestlers were let go this week, and there are probably a couple of more to follow. Among them, well, the 10 that have already been officially let go are Test, A-Train. By the way, they are opening with the X Division Gauntlet match. Sanjay Dutt's in the ring. Test, A-Train, Billy Gunn, Nydia, Jazz, Rodney Mack, Gail Kim, Johnny the Bull Stamboli, Rico, kind of a surprise to me, and Chuck Palumbo were all let go this week, and also Rulon Gardner, the famous Olympic wrestler, probably the most famous real wrestler in the United States of the past 20 years, so to speak. Well, I guess Kurt Angle's more famous for his professional wrestling, but Rulon Gardner, of course, 2000 gold medalist, 2004 bronze medalist, will be debuting in Pride on New Year's Eve. It'll be on pay-per-view here on January the 2nd against Hidehiko Yoshida, the Olympic gold medalist from 1992 in judo. Gold medal versus gold medal. Judo versus Greco-Roman wrestling. U.S. versus Japan. Big, powerful dude against technical dude. It's everything that they want in Japan. And we'll see. It may, there's some people think it might get Pride some coverage in the United States as well. And then in probably the most, I don't know how to say this, one of the strangest minutes, strangest 40 seconds, and most talked about 40 seconds in years, maybe in professional wrestling, took place on Tuesday night in St. Louis, and it aired on SmackDown on Thursday between Kurt Angle and Daniel Puder. And on the martial arts message boards, I have never in my life, I can never recall a topic, so many topics, so many frames of reference, so many ignorant things, so many not so ignorant things being said. It's not as big, actually, among as I can tell among the wrestling community, but and I think part of that is, and then there's actually a big story on that too, because a lot of that is how it was played. It was really not pushed at all on the show, and unless you kind of knew what you were looking for, you didn't really know what you saw. But the basic gist was Daniel Puder got Kurt Angle in a Kimura, and Kurt Angle was about to Kurt Angle was caught. He was done. Jimmy Corderas counted a 3 count, even though Kurt Angle's shoulder popped. Daniel Puder's shoulder was up for part of the 3 count. I know you're going like, if you didn't see it, you're going like, what are you talking about? This is pro wrestling and it's all rigged. It was part of the Tough Enough Challenge. It was 100% shoot, and boy, there is a lot. There's a lot of ways to look at that one. That's all I can tell you. But if you got any questions about that, I have talked to more people about this story. In my life, this is like the frickin' Survivor Series from 7 years ago. Everyone backstage has a version of it. Everyone wants to talk about it. It just blew a lot of people away. And we got the TNA pay-per-view going on with an X Division Battle Royal. And in the ring still is Sanjay Dutt, Michael Shane, La Park, and I think Frankie Kazarian is the other guy in there. And who's coming out? Hector Garza. So anyway, that's what's going on in the ring. There was a masked guy. I am actually watching this. There was a masked guy, and if anyone knows who that masked guy was, I didn't recognize him. It's a 20-man thing. He's already been eliminated, so I'm assuming he was a local Florida guy that they just put a mask on because they didn't have enough guys. But anyway, the match is looking pretty good from my standpoint. I know the crowd's going pretty bonkers for this, so it's a fast-paced show. Anyway, we were talking about a lot of different things going on this week, of course. Also last week, in the Pride pay-per-view, Quentin Jackson and Vanderlei Silva had, boy, when you talk about one of the better matches probably is going to win match of the year this year. With Vanderlei Silva, of course, winning, and then, of course, the New Year's Eve, the big battle on New Year's Eve with K1 and Pride, it's going to be just huge down there. And we're over in Japan, and just a lot of big stuff going on. And anyway, we will start taking phone calls right now. Every line is lit up, but as soon as somebody hangs up, you can jump on board. I have a feeling we've got a whole lot to talk about tonight. We're going to start in Vancouver with Chris. Chris, what's happening?
Hey, Dave. How's it going today?
It's going really good.
First, I want to say you have a spectacular show. I'm loving listening to you guys. You guys are great.
Thanks.
I just want to let you know on Ted DiBiase was on Off the Record. Do you know that show Off the Record on TSN?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know Michael Landsberg very well, actually.
Yeah, he was on there just a couple months ago, and he had an interesting point. He was saying that something along the lines that when he was wrestling Hulk Hogan at the peak of his career, that the WWF took care of him very well. They paid his medical bills. And when he was really injured, when he was at the late end of his career, like 93, just before I guess he left, the WWF didn't do anything. He'd have to pay out of his own pocket. I just want to know, does WWE do that now, or? Now the WWE pays everyone's medical bills. Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm not sure. And it's pretty much a formal thing. In the, wrestling historically, the rules, so to speak, in the dark ages of wrestling, which was not all that many years ago, really, promoters never paid your medical bills. You were considered an independent contractor, and you had to pay all your own expenses, road expenses, and everything. And as time went on, and as the business got closer and closer to the 20th century, they started paying things like a lot more of the travel bills were paid. Although the guys still pay their own hotels, the guys still pay their own rent-a-cars. In most cases, some stars don't. Some stars get that perk. But the majority of guys have to pay that. But medical bills, WWE pays your medical bills, and that is not going to change. Although, there's a lot. WWE is cutting back. I mean, there's no question. And the last couple of pay-per-views doing poorly. I think that's a big part of the situation. Of course, the house show business not doing that well as well.
Right. And I have a question on The Rock. He's filming Spy Hunter very soon, and I believe Gridiron, some other movie. Do you see him wrestling at WrestleMania 21? Because
I don't think so. His schedule is that he's doing a movie in March, and I forget which movie that is.
Well, I heard that he's coming up to Vancouver to film one movie. I believe it's going to be the Gridiron movie after Spy Hunter.
That's the one where he plays like the coach of troubled kids or something.
Yeah.
It's a football type movie.
Yeah, he did Walking Tall up here. Actually, I met him up here because I work in the movie business.
Yeah, Rock's a great guy, actually.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy, really, really cool guy.
And loves wrestling more than anyone really knows. I mean, Rock, when he went to Prague, I mean, he took a collection of, I think it was 1980s NWA tapes to watch, while he was on downtime because, of territories that he didn't grow up watching. I mean, for a guy who's, pretty much out of it, and he doesn't watch Raw every week, and he's not, totally into the storylines that they're doing and everything like that. But he's a big fan of old wrestling.
Oh yeah, he is.
And when he comes back, I mean, he comes back because he loves it. He doesn't come back because he needs the money. Because believe me, most people in Hollywood have been telling him, stay away, don't go back, and he does it because, it's a fun thing for him. He has more fun doing wrestling than he does doing movies. But he made $33 million one year in the movie, so he ain't gonna give that up.
Yeah, he got $15 million for Walking Tall. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, I just want to say I did order the TNA pay-per-view tonight. I was looking forward to this event. I'm looking forward to this event more than Survivor Series. I'd like to see TNA doing some house shows and expanding their product besides Florida and Tennessee. I hope they get into Canada, actually, because I know TSN had an agreement with them, and that's up in the air. But Dave,
that's a weird one. There's a story to that that I'm not really familiar with. I mean, I'm not talking. The story that they're given makes no sense to me. That's a bogus story. So they're covering something up on why they're not on, and I don't know exactly what it is. I actually saw a schedule that was printed several weeks ago for TSN that listed them, starting tomorrow. So that thing, if anyone says that was never on the schedule, and it was, it was on the schedule and it was scheduled to start tomorrow, and for some reason it's not, and there's no plans for it to start, and, as the saying goes, what makes sense as to why is probably why.
Right. Well, Dave, keep up the great work.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris.
All right.
Okay, we are going to go to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on, Dave?
Not too much.
I got a question for you. Actually, I don't want to talk too much about it, but I want to talk about Ruin Gardner.
Yeah.
has he had any submission training? I mean, I know they have
little or none. But he's going to be going with Dan Henderson and Randy Couture, particularly Dan Henderson, starting I believe this week and training pretty much straight through. So he's going to get a couple of months of it. I mean, it's not enough, and he's not going to be ready for that first fight. I mean, as far as what he would want to be, there's no question. You need 6 months to a year of it to really be ready. But that's the way the chips fall.
It's going to be interesting, nonetheless.
Yeah, especially when we just watched the gold medalist get caught in 15 or 20 seconds.
Yeah, well, I wanted to actually talk about that. It's nitty. I'm just one person, but I did write a letter to you on email, just trying to really dissect what happened.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's quite the story. In fact, this coming week's Observer has this is a story. This is it's not a Survivor Series like story, in detail as that, but this is probably the closest thing since the Survivor Series to an amazing backstage story. I mean, I got the second by second of everything that happened there, and it was quite the story, is all I could say. I mean, something was scripted and it didn't exactly happen the way it was supposed to. And it wasn't. It was what it was, and two guys were. I mean, it was an all-out shoot, and Kurt Angle, was not coming out the better of that one.
Well, yeah. I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that this guy that he's just not a nobody. He was trained by Frank Shamrock.
Oh, he's not a nobody. He was trained by some awesome coaches, and he's a great athlete.
And he's a wrestler too, from California. He's a collegiate wrestler.
He was CCS, which was where I live. Central California champion in his weight class in 2000 at Monte Vista High.
Right. And
there's a world of difference between a high school, and he did not win California state championship, although I think, as I recall the story on him, because I know a lot of his coaches, he had a broken hand when he won CCS, and his coach told him not to risk his career by going to state, but he was a favorite to win state, and winning state in this state is this is one of the tougher states in the country to win. There's still, high school champion and Olympic gold medalist is it's light years of difference, but also you've got, one guy who's in shape and one guy who's, not trained for it. Kurt Angle was put in a horrible position by the company because the people in the company had no clue, and this is what happened. I mean, it wasn't fair to Kurt, wasn't fair to Daniel Puder either. What happened, to be quite frank, especially what happened to him the week before. So it's an amazing story.
I think a lot of people don't realize the level of competition in amateur wrestling, even at the Olympic level. Like, for instance, Kurt Angle obviously won the gold medal in '96, but what's not to say that what happens if a week later him and the I forget the Arab guy who got the silver medal, if they wrestled again, maybe Kurt Angle would have lost.
Oh, when you're looking at wrestling, there's some guys like, Carellin in his prime, Dan Gable in his prime for that matter, Danny Hodge in his prime. Those guys were, and even though Danny didn't win a gold medal, but he should have, those guys, it didn't matter when the tournament was, they were going to win. With Kurt, I'm pretty darn sure that Kurt was going to finish, if you put all those guys in the tournament, 9 times out of 10, Kurt was going to finish either first or second, but he would not have necessarily won. He might have won 5 or 6 of the 10. You know what I'm saying? You're right. They're doing some crazy spot here. It's oh my God.
No, I'm saying it's not fair just because he's a gold medalist that he should be immune to losing. I mean, I think a guy.
Oh no. There's no such thing as someone, especially when you're talking about in mixed martial arts. We've seen. Even though I haven't seen Vanderlei Silva lose, there's no such thing as an unbeatable guy. Someone can beat everyone, and especially when you have a lot of different styles. Kurt in his prime. Kurt didn't go 4 years unbeaten in high school. Cale Sanderson did, but Cale Sanderson got beat at the world level. There's no such, Carellin in his prime is the only one who was, the unbeatable guy, and at the end he got beat too. But that's about the only one of the modern era that I can recall. And Jeff? Yeah. Anything else?
Actually, one other thing I wanted to say. Kurt Angle's ego is obviously bruised from this. I mean, he always thinks he's the best, and he really is a fantastic,
awesome
amateur wrestler. But I mean, how is he feeling after this? I know he went to the hospital. But mentally, does he feel really embarrassed or does he actually have?
I believe he was very embarrassed. Yeah, he was very embarrassed by what happened.
What did he say to him? What did he say to him after?
He said a lot of expletives, and basically, we were doing a wrestling match. This isn't a UFC match. What are you doing? Why'd you go to your back? But he was, how much of that is in and out of character? You got to remember, he was playing drill sergeant. It was like Big Show the week before. I mean, their role. I mean, it's a weird thing. Their role, and everyone's role in this Tough Enough thing, was to bully the guys. And I mean, they bullied the guys like crazy. On that night, they bullied the guys like crazy the week before that night with Big Show. Big Show suckered Daniel Rodheimer with that knee, and bruised his sternum. And I mean, that was in the guise of, laying there after the guy slammed you. And I mean, it was in real life, it would be what I would call a cheap shot. There've been a lot of cheap shots. That whole killing those guys in St. Louis last Tuesday, on SmackDown. And I mean, they really killed those guys, so Kurt would have easy pickings. And I mean, and they knew about the guy. The company underestimated that guy. I mean, badly, and that's what happened. And I'm sure Kurt did too.
He won't make that mistake twice.
We will never see another real wrestling match on WWE TV. They should have learned from Brawl for All, but they thought that in this case they had a bunch of punks. And I mean, if it was any of those other guys, I mean, Kurt was going to beat every one of those guys. Was going to run through every one of those guys. They just had one guy. They had one guy who was more real than they thought, and I don't expect that we will ever see that mistake ever made in WWE again.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
Coming weeks.
Yep.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay. Very welcome. Right. Okay. Let's go to Levi. Levi, what's going on?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi, Dave. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay. I wanted to talk about Ring of Honor. I went to my first show yesterday in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
Just to give a little background, I've been, a big wrestling fan for about 15 years. Super into it till about 2 years ago, as a lot of people have the same story. I've been pretty much following it through your newsletter and the website, and watching it with half an eye sometimes on TV while flipping around, but really disheartened. Pretty much all my pay-per-view money and ticket money has gone directly into MMA as soon as I discovered Pride.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to give Ring of Honor a try because hearing a lot about it on your show and similar forms of media. So I took the bus trip last night, and it was an awesome show. I think I'm actually going to sign up for all the different bus trips to go to Ring of Honor. I was actually...
I wish I lived in the Northeast, let me tell you, because, I mean, I watch the Ring of Honor tapes when I get them, which are about, I'm up to September 11th, so I'm a couple months behind. And I sit there and I mean, they have their good matches and they have their bad matches, but overall... I mean, if you're someone who doesn't like WWE for whatever reason, you don't think it's your cup of tea, and you're ready to give up on wrestling, I mean, I tell people, I just wrote it this week, try, Ring of Honor's not for everybody also, but try it because you may like it a lot.
It was kind of like when I got into ECW, except you didn't have to feel embarrassed because the fans may have had some obnoxious chants, but it wasn't from the Federation where they were doing anything disgusting, where you had to go through those sort of things, or, watch New Jack cutting somebody up. To get through the show, you can just watch it and feel like you're watching something respectable and just enjoy the show.
I love the booking. I love the, it's like, I love the top guys, the way the championship feels. They've got, there's some guys there, and then the guys in the main event, I mean, they had Samoa Joe and Jushin Liger against Low Ki and Bryan Danielson. And I mean, that's talent that's, on par with, any main eventers in any federation as far as I'm concerned.
I think one of the coolest things last night was really what you're talking about with the championship, when I had never read about this happening before, where Samoa Joe comes out to a beat and everyone chants in unison, "The champ is here, the champ is here."
Right.
I can't ever imagine somebody doing that for JBL or Triple H right now. That's just something.
Right now they wouldn't be. I mean, Mick Foley. Now, what did Mick Foley say last night about Triple H?
Oh, he was incredible. He he ranked on Triple H, Heidenreich, and the Baby Killer. Snitsky. He was first. He kind of was talking about bringing CM Punk and Samoa Joe to the WWE. So everyone started booing, and he said, if Snitsky and Heidenreich can be on the show, why can't they? But with Triple H, it wasn't really something that he said directly. He was kind of saying, a superstar like Triple H, and then he held his thumb out, where he knew what everyone's reaction was going to be.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah, so it was, he was really...
Like Roddy Piper is going to do on that Best Damn Sports Show thing. It's, Hector Garza, by the way, real quick, Hector Garza won that match. The Rumble, it must have gone about a half an hour because it just ended, and, I've watched enough of it. It looked like there was some pretty great action in the match. So anyway, let's get back to Triple H, I guess.
So it was really Foley and CM Punk really had such chemistry. Actually, after the show, CM Punk came on the bus for a little Q&A session, and he was pretty much glowing. He was talking about the chemistry that he had with Mick Foley and what it felt like to be put over with him. He was really, really happy, and he was actually doing some Raven impressions, which were pretty funny as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the next show, the next show's the one with Cornette and Bobby Heenan finally working together, December 4th.
That should be awesome. I'm a big Bobby Heenan mark from back in the day, Wrestling Challenge with him and Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah, if he's on his game, you've heard him on the show. If you've ever saw the WWE Hall of Fame video, that's worth getting just for Bobby Heenan. He's a funny guy.
That was great. I actually wanted to discuss one other topic. Rich, I read in your Observer of the UFC buy rate. I was actually shocked by how low it was.
Yeah, I wasn't the day after, but if you had given me that number 10 days before and said this is what it's going to do, yeah, I would have been stunned.
I could understand it for when they first bought the company with Matt Hughes against Carlos Newton, because that's a very hardcore type of match. But Tito Ortiz is already a breakout star. He's been on shows where, admittedly, he wasn't the reason they drew 110,000 buy rates against Shamrock, but still, he was a big part of it. He's been on a lot of shows where they've done, at least 70 or 80,000 buy rates. So I was shocked that they couldn't pull at least, 55, 60,000.
Yeah, wow. Director of Authority voting, Dusty Rhodes 55%, Vince Russo 45%. Who are those 45%? Don't they know what the storyline is? Anyway, excuse me. I was surprised afterwards, and I got a lot of emails asking people about it, and the thing that everyone said was that they didn't see Tito Ortiz as a main eventer, and certainly, against either Guy Metzger or Patrick Catay. So I think that's what it was. They didn't have the main event people wanted to see, which is the simplest rule of promoting. Wow. That's why the WWE pay-per-views haven't done well lately.
I haven't ordered one in 2 years.
Yeah, we're actually about to start the second match. It's an 8-man tag with Ron Killings, Johnny B. Bad, Eric Watts, and Pat Kenny as the Empire Saint against Kid Cash Dallas and the Naturals. The match has not started yet. We got a full bank of calls. We're going to go next to Brian. Brian, what's going on?
Hi, Dave. Great show.
Thanks very much.
I wanted to talk to you about the style of wrestlers that primarily I'm referring to the WWE have been picking up lately, and everybody they seem to be going towards their physique as opposed to the personality. Some of my best memories of wrestling are when you had the Yokozuna and Kamala tugboat, Ted DiBiase, who weren't necessarily the best built, but they really had a great personality. And since the beginning of the year, Raw and SmackDown started off good this year, and since then I've kind of faded my interest. Do you believe that possibly looking more into personality in some of these wrestlers?
I don't know what
has helped out a little bit.
This is what business is bad for them, and it's just one of those things. When business is bad for Vince, he looks for big guys and big guys with muscles, and that's what they're recruiting. That they bring them up too fast before they're ready. And that's what we got. That's what they recruited. Look at the tough enough guys. Those guys are huge guys, with the exception of Mike the Miz. They're all, except for two of them, I think they're all about 260 and up. except for maybe 2 or 3 of them, they're all 6'3" and up. 2 of those guys are like 6'6" and 6'9". And I'm sure that there were better athletes at that thing than some of the guys that they recruited that weren't as big or didn't have as good a physique, and that's what they're looking for. It's a big mistake. I mean, there's no question it's a big mistake, but
you do agree that personality is kind of more important in this style of wrestling.
A lot of stuff is important. It's funny. You can overanalyze it because there's one of the bad things about what's happened today, both with people in charge of the company and with people watching, is that they look for the perfect wrestler, and the man doesn't exist. And they'll go, well, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have this. Well, nobody, including Ric Flair, had everything. And by doing that, you're missing the whole thing. Is like what gets over, and that's the answer. And I mean, there have been some guys that there have been guys that had no ability that got over. There are guys that you would think would never get over that get over, but when they do, and you just go with it. And I think one of the things is that in WWE, when someone gets over, I've seen so many times, the first thing they try to do is, bury them. And I mean, it's insane. And I think that, there's a lot of reasons for it, and everyone knows what those reasons are. But yeah, personality is important, wrestling ability is important, look is important. They're all important. But some guys are going to get over, having little of all of those things better than guys who have a lot of most of them, So, that's the basic gist of it. And, if you got the right gimmick, look, Kamala is a perfect example. Kamala is a nothing, he's a nobody, but he came up with a gimmick that was pretty cool and made a lot of money with it.
I know when he came back during that $250,000 Diva Challenge just for that one skit, I was excited just to see him. Even for that,
I wasn't a fan of that one. I'll have to say, I thought that was horrible. But
just to get to see somebody I hadn't seen in a while. Can I ask you something about the stables, though, Dave? Right now, the only stable, being Evolution. Yeah. And over the recent weeks,
they're going to kind of make Angle have Angle, Luther Reigns, and Mark Jindrak, with a stable. I didn't give him a name.
I do see him working on that, but I remember back when you had remember when you always had the Horsemen in the dungeon going toe to toe.
Lots of. WWE had Team Canada and the Bariquas.
Yeah, absolutely. That was exciting for me. And now, and I agree with you. I do see how they're pulling that stable together on SmackDown. But, with Evolution being the only stable over there in Raw, and it seems like they're just not doing so hot over the last few weeks, at least. Is that something that's fading away? Will we see more stables? Are they even going to survive?
Well, Evolution's going to survive in some form because of Hunter. I'm sure it'll be a long, evolving storyline. But I think one of the reasons why you don't see a lot is because of Evolution, and because Hunter wants to keep the uniqueness of it. And I think he's going to let one go on SmackDown because it's on his show. But I don't think that I think he wants to keep it's like he wants him to have the stable, and he doesn't want other stables. And I don't expect that we would have other stables on the Raw side.
Okay. And one last thing, Dave. I was calling into the show when you were talking about the 10 wrestlers that got let go, and I look forward to this week to get to read about it. But were you suggesting that basically that was for monetary reasons?
Yes, partially, and partially just house cleaning in the sense of, open up the doors to bring in, new guys, because none of those 10 that in their minds, none of those 10 had gotten over or were going to get over. So therefore, let's give 10 new people a chance to get over. So I think that's their mentality. We'll see how that works over the next, 6 to 8 weeks. But yeah, we're going to see, I expect we're going to see, some new people, to take their place, which would be, OVW people, and, there's some of them that are good. I just have a feeling, like with Snitsky and Heidenreich, what they're going to do is they're going to bring in the biggest bodies, and that's Matt Morgan and Chris Masters. And I don't know that they're neither of them are ready. I'm going to say I don't know. Neither of them are ready. Although Matt Morgan is a fantastic promo guy, so that he may be able to get by on that. But ring work, he's not ready, and he had a real tough time the last time they brought him up when he wasn't ready.
When you were just on a call, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but one last thing back to the whole Kurt Angle situation on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Was there something on SmackDown that I didn't see, or maybe I'm just not understanding, because the way I'm understanding it just by listening to your show so far tonight, it seemed like he, as a minimum, certainly didn't succeed to the expectations that Kurt Angle should have just basically stomped on the guy. But it didn't appear to me by watching SmackDown that, Kurt had done that terrible. I saw him get into a lock and then he threw him on his back, and I did see his shoulders up a little bit, but they had ended the match. Was there more to it that I didn't get to see?
You didn't see it. There was nothing more that you didn't see. The only thing was that the guy had the lock on. His shoulders weren't down, and they counted that 3 count right away. And anyone who really watched it close saw what it was, and that was that Kurt was in a submission hold that he couldn't get out of, and they ended it, and that's what it was.
Yeah, I guess I really didn't have my eyes in on it very well, because it didn't appear to me that it was going to be quite the deal that it's being made out to be right now.
It's bigger.
And will that affect Kurt Angle at all?
Won't affect Kurt Angle at all, no. Other than he could get in a hot program, but they won't go there. So it actually won't affect Kurt Angle one bit. No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dave.
They're going to pretend it never happened, I think, or hope that no one picks up on what happened, except that they did on the martial arts sports. Let's go to John in St. Louis. By the way, the Mexican minis are in the ring. It's Mascarita Sagrada against Piratito Morgan. John, what's going on?
Hey, Dave.
Hey.
I got a couple questions for you. First of all, it seems like you're basically not fixing the problem if you're cutting wrestlers there. If it's everybody knows that it's creative, and I understand it's not going to be.
Everybody knows it's creative, and everybody knows. Here's the other problem. The problem is the stale main eventers, not bad main eventers, and that's what they don't understand. It's not that they're bad, and they're probably, the main eventers are probably the best guys, all things being equal, to be main eventers, except they've had their run, and they're stale, and they're not going to draw. And they've buried everyone else to where they're not going to draw either. And because of that, revenues are down, and they're cutting higher salary. Well, they're cutting people. So, but yes, the problem is not the undercard at all. They are the scapegoats, and they've been the scapegoats all along. Their pay has gone way down from a couple of years ago because of the fact that the main eventers cannot draw, and they're being told, well, if you know how to draw money, now's your chance. But they don't put anyone in a position to do it, and they've already buried them from a creative standpoint to where the fans will not accept them on top. So it's a horrible thing. It's what happened at WCW. We saw it happening from really late 2000 on, was when a lot of the damage was really done, because it was the time when new people were ready to take that next step, and the crowd was ready for them, and the audience was so big at the time you could make new stars, and it's WCW all over again. They didn't learn the lessons, and now they're in the same position, other than they're a better run company, and they're not going to go out of business anytime soon.
This is the thing I've always wanted to ask Vince McMahon, or somebody, Vince primarily. I would ask him, Vince, why don't you give a tenth of the push that you've given Hunter, you've given Bradshaw, to one of these guys, Because, I look at somebody like Rico. First of all, he got that lame... Rico got a bad hand handed to him. He did the best with his bad hand, and he's a scapegoat. He's a talented guy. He's more talented than Bradshaw. Yeah, exactly. And you know what scares me, Dave, is the fact that I think they're going to do it again to Booker T at Survivor Series, or they've had him. They may. I don't know who's going to win that one. But you know what? This is the truth. It really doesn't matter. Because Booker T is not going to turn that company around either. Because he's been. I would like to give him a chance. I think he could do a better. The problem is that his chance was 2 years ago. It won't work now. No, I'm not saying. Would he be better than Bradshaw? Yeah, probably. I don't know that he'll be. I don't know that he'll be any worse. It won't be any worse. But the point is, from a world championship standpoint, what they've done is
it's like Booker T's not going to be the answer. They may put him in the position. He may be better than Bradshaw. He will be better than Bradshaw in the ring, certainly, when it comes to match quality. But in the end, he's going to be the next scapegoat. They're going to go and they're going to say, like they will say with Bradshaw when it's all over, and like they said with Chris Benoit, and like they said with Eddie Guerrero, and it's just like, we gave them a chance, and it didn't work, because, nothing's going to work right now. They could give it to Booker. I hope they do. He deserves it. But for him to have worked out, it should have been done, when he was in there feuding with Rock and never getting any meaningful wins. Okay? Right now, in the ring, Team Canada is doing a number on, I don't even know who that is. It's Christopher Daniel? Oh, no, this must be film clips. Okay. Leading up to probably the Team Canada 3 Live Crew, Conan and Road Dogg Tag Team Championship match, which should be starting in about a minute. Scott Hall just did an interview here, and in fact, that's what it is, because we've got the ring entrance coming up. Masquerade Sagrada beat Piratita Morgan. It was a very quick match. A couple of quick matches that we've had leading up to this Tag Team Championship match. And anyway, that's what's going on here. I have not been watching the matches closely, but what I can tell is the crowd is really into this thing. When Scott Hall was out, he got the superstar reaction. So anyway, I can't tell you if it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down show, because I'm going to have to watch it when it's over. But most of the key matches will actually be going on, I think, in the next hour, other than they're going to end with Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Hardy, which would be after we go off the air. But most of their key matches will be going on now. In the middle of the NWA TNA pay-per-view, it's Conan and BG James challenging Bobby Roode and Eric Young, Team Canada, for the NWA Tag Team titles, and we're a couple minutes into the match. And Conan has actually just made a hot tag, and we'll be following this pay-per-view for the rest of the hour, as well as taking your phone calls. We've got pretty much a full bank of calls, but you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY right after somebody hangs up, and we're going to go to Mike in Fort Worth. Michael, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing really good.
That's good deal. I got a question about the 10 wrestlers that have been cut.
Yes.
Do they have any names out on who's been cut yet?
Oh, I can give you all 10. It's Test, A-Train, Billy Gunn, Nydia Jazz, Rodney Mack, Gail Kim, Johnny the Bull Stamboli, Rico, and Chuck Palumbo. So those are the 10. There may be a couple more coming up in the next week. I'm not sure. I was told during the week that there would be 12 in all cut, and so far only 10 names have come out.
Okay, and this first-time caller, man, I've been listening to your show for a while now, and you got a fantastic show.
Thank you very much.
Will this pull any TNA wrestlers over to WWE possibly?
Will they sign any TNA wrestlers to bring them in? Most of the TNA guys are under contract. I know that they tried to get Chris Harris and James Storm, but they re-signed with TNA. And looks like we've got big schmaz going on here. But I don't see them bringing in any TNA guys right away. I mean, as guys' contracts, if someone like AJ Styles' contract is up, I could see them certainly trying to bring him in, yes. But I don't think that's coming up anytime soon.
Yeah, we seen the first TNA program in Huntsville, Alabama. That was fantastic. Any idea on anything with Sting?
They wanted him for the show tonight. It just didn't work out. I don't know. It's up to Sting. They'd love to have him, obviously. They're doing pay-per-views. They're doing big pay-per-views once a month, and I'm sure they'll make a play for Sting again, just because they're going to need, they're going to need new stars every month. So, by the way, the 3 Live Crew just won the Tag Team Championship. It looks like Ron Killing's interference chased out Scott D'Amore, and we just had a title switch. So, just want to let everyone know about that. So that's what's going on with the show. But they were trying to get Sting for tonight in the role that Randy Savage is going to be playing, as a matter of fact, at the end of the show. So that's what's going on. In the ring right now on the TNA pay-per-view is Roddy Piper, and he's supposed to have a mystery guest. And at this moment, so far, I haven't seen a mystery guest, so we'll have to wait and see who this turns out to be, even though I've got a pretty decent idea of who it will be. And I guess some of you probably know that as well, but what do you know? Someone is walking down the aisle, and it is, in fact, Jimmy Snuka. So there you go. He's not walking very good, though, unfortunately. We're going to go to Mitchell. Mitchell, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, how's it going?
It's going really good.
I was going to ask you about the deal with Flair and Batista on Monday. Is that something that's going to continue on? Are they into it now? Is Evolution going to be destroyed in its current form, or is this just something to where it's just something that happened in the heat of the moment?
It was when it was done, it was scheduled to be something that would go somewhere.
Yeah.
Hopefully they will follow up on it, but I never trust them on follow-up, if you know what I mean. But exactly what where it's supposed to end up, I don't know. But no, he didn't shove down. Batista didn't shove down Ric Flair for no reason. I mean, there was that is supposed to be the beginning of something, and hopefully it evolves a lot slower than the Randy Orton turn, which
he
rushed so badly. And
I know it. I loved Evolution the way it was, but I also wanted to see Orton break out. But it happened so quick that, it's like whiplash, you know?
Huge mistake. Happened too quick. Orton also shouldn't have won the championship that early.
Exactly, man.
It should have been safe for WrestleMania.
I've been watching wrestling ever since I was, all the way back to Mid-South days.
Yeah.
To see him win that title like that so quickly. Don't get me wrong, he's talented, but to see him win it that quick, it's just unreal.
Yeah, well,
nobody does these days.
The problem was that he won it. If he had won it and they planted the seeds where Hunter was jealous,
right,
and he'd held it for a couple of months,
exactly,
and they had the big split and things like that, that would be one thing. But to hold it for a month,
right,
and the way it all went down, I just thought was very poorly done.
I agree.
And then it's hurt Orton, but he's a young guy. He's only 24. He'll recover, and he's going to be a big star anyway. But still, you never get a second chance to do the angle right, and they blew it. That's all I can say.
Like a first date.
Yeah, exactly. They've blown a lot of first dates lately, and they just blew another one. They're going to blow another one this week. Well, they already did it. So,
You think they will follow it up with Flair and Batista?
I think they will, and I just hope they do it slowly. But I think they will. I think they will. I know they were supposed to.
Yeah. Okay. One more thing. I was going to ask you about: is there a chance for Ric Flair? And I don't have any other way to say it. Is going to quit sucking on Triple H's rear end?
I hope so.
Man, I'm sick of it. I've been watching Ric Flair.
Everybody wants to forever. A couple of weeks ago when they did the Ric Flair Randy Orton
I thought that was
pay-per-view, the final scene was Ric Flair and Randy Orton hugging each other, and it got me really mad because when that show was over,
right,
everybody was talking about that thing, and then they came on TV the next week and they pretended it never happened. And to me, it was like that's where you really they're not in a position to be killing their fan base by doing these storylines that don't go anywhere. And they did it, and it really upset me because I want to see them succeed, and I have no faith in most of the people who write the show. It bothers me because most of the people who I talk to in wrestling, at this point have evolved faster than the people who are writing that show. Not all of them, but because there are some good writers on that show, but the finished product, just these things that they just do wrong. That's all I can say, and that was an example of it.
Ric Flair is Ric Flair. The greatest of all time, and they're going to take him. And it's just like Orton said. Everything he said was true, whether it was scripted or not. Everything he said was true.
Yeah, he meant every word of that one. You know what? That's why it did so well as far as a live interview.
Right.
But it didn't do business for a lot of reasons, and it's just the product being so cold. That's really the deal.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering, if there's some situation also to where Ric Flair is going to be worked into. Where he makes a run for the title.
A run for the title. I think that if he's a babyface, I really believe that there is one last run where he could beat Hunter.
Do you remember the night?
Then it would get over. I think it would.
Do you remember the night that he was talking about, his book had just come out, and he was talking, and he said something about, every time I get started making a run for the title, a freak shows up. And about that time, Hurricane showed up. They got into it. He beat Hurricane that night.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that was some talk of it. And then I thought, like I say, going back to the deal with Orton, trying to preach to him and tell him what he's doing wrong. Because nobody loves Ric Flair more than I do. But to see him destroying his own legend, it's sick.
I'm more worried about him destroying his own body than his legend. Because his legend, the one thing I can tell you is the legend of Ric Flair, no matter what he does, he's already established it. But his body, that's another story.
Right, but they're following Triple H. You're either the lead dog or you're always following.
Yeah, well, it's Triple H's show right now.
I know.
That's just how it is.
I like Triple H.
We all got to live with it, and it's not for the best, but that's what it is.
He's the modern day. I guess he's supposed to be the modern day Ric Flair, but for Ric Flair to be the one following him.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the modern day Ric Flair. The only problem is I mean, Ric Flair wasn't always 100%, whatever. I mean, he had his down periods too, as far as being able to draw. But the one thing, I mean, Ric Flair had so much more charisma than Triple H, and then was
he's bigger
and so much of a better wrestler. And that's all there is to it.
I think that's what Vince envisions Triple H as.
Yeah,
as being his modern day Ric Flair. In truth, he never had Ric Flair in his prime. I mean, he had the little, the deal with the Royal Rumble, but he never had the real Ric Flair.
Ric Flair was really still very good at that point. I mean, he was already past 40 by then.
Right.
But Vince could have, that was another one of Vince's things. If Vince creates a character and likes the character, like Ted DiBiase is the $1 Million Man,
right?
He'll really, just get excited about it.
Yeah.
When it's somebody else's character, and I mean, Vince loves. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say today because I don't know what their relationship is today. But generally speaking, Vince loves Ric Flair, and Ric Flair loves Vince.
I agree.
And
I agree with that.
So Ric Flair has done better than a lot of characters that Vince didn't create, but ultimately, Vince didn't create Ric Flair, and it does work to his disadvantage, to Flair's disadvantage as far as, he's not going to go to the wall with Flair like he will with somebody else because of that, it's just a Vince ego. That's all I can say.
He said that, on TV.
Yeah.
Like when he would talk about The Rock, or he would talk about, like, Stone Cold or somebody like that, and he would say, how much he made them.
Yeah.
He was building, well, I don't want to get off on that. One more quick thing is, I heard you talking about Sting on NWA.
Yeah.
Is there any chance of Sting maybe coming to WWE ever?
There's a chance. If Vince wants him, and they can work it out, they can do it. They even talked before, not this year's WrestleMania, but the WrestleMania the year before. And it's just, it's Vince not wanting to bring guys in for a 1-month thing because Sting doesn't want to go on the road. He doesn't want to be full-time. And Vince wants everyone to play by the same. They've just got a mentality that makes it very difficult, unfortunately. So, but I mean, it can happen, and it wouldn't shock me at all to see Sting on that show at any time now, especially with them down. When they're down, they're more apt to, go further to try to get new guys just because they need something new and they know it, and Sting's out there. So, yeah, definitely a chance.
It'd be awesome to see him and Ric Flair one more time.
I wouldn't want to see that. I would want to see something new, and I think that's what Sting wants to. Sting, but one of the things he said is that, he regrets that he never wrestled like Shawn Michaels in his career. So I don't know if that's going to be a great marquee match, but it is two stars that never wrestled each other.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks, man. You have a good show.
Okay, very welcome. Thanks very much. Let's go to Paul. Paul, what's going on? Hello? Hey, how you doing?
I heard a rumor that Sting is coming to WWE.
He might be. I mean, it's, he might be. I don't think that there's any deal signed right now, but, they've talked. Him and Sting's people and Vince have talked, on and off for probably 3 years now.
Well, I was thinking, I was hearing if he comes, he's going to come to Raw because he's a franchise, and he's going to go up against Triple H, and that'd be a good match between him and Triple H because Triple H wrestled him in WCW when Triple H was there, but never beat him.
That was Paul Levesque, and that was Jean-Paul Levesque. I don't think Triple H even wants anyone to remember that period of his life. But yeah, I guess Sting was a much bigger star, obviously, in '95 than Triple H was when that was going down.
And another thing, you think Ric Flair will ever retire, or will he stay with WWE?
You never know what will happen. I don't see Ric Flair ever retiring. I mean, I could see him saying, I'm going to retire, and then be back in 3 months forever. But I don't believe that Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan will ever fully retire. I think Rick is an incredibly driven person, and I just don't see that. Well, he may get an injury that's so severe that he can't wrestle anymore, but that would be the only way he would retire, is if physically he just couldn't do it anymore. He's not going to, if he didn't retire by now, he's not retiring.
Well, I've been watching wrestling ever since I was 5, and Ric Flair has always been my best wrestler.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people's favorite.
If Evolution splits up, you think Ric Flair reunites the Four Horsemen or something like the Four Horsemen?
I think Four Horsemen's a dead idea. I don't think that'll ever happen again. I really don't. Because if they were going to do it, it would have been Evolution, because they had talked of using the Four Horsemen name for Evolution, and I think they decided the Four Horsemen was something that was from that era, and that they want to do something different rather than rehash. Plus, Vince doesn't like using old NWA names. He's got an aversion to it, so I really don't think we'll ever see Four Horsemen again. Of course, we're talking about the NWA TNA pay-per-view, as well as taking phone calls, and right now, Jacqueline Moore, formerly from WWE, is wrestling Trinity and just hit her with a German suplex, as a matter of fact. This match is about a minute or so underway, or about a minute or so into the match. And we got one line open at 1-800-878-PLAY, so you can jump on board. We're going to go to Neil. Neil, what's going on?
Dave, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Actually, I'm calling about a couple things. The first thing is I was actually supposed to do the report, and I can't get this show on the Internet.
I don't think this pay-per-view's on the Internet.
No, I mean this show for the Wrestling Observer.
Oh, there's problems with the Internet? Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, for like on two different computers I tried to get it, and I don't know if it's my Windows Media Player, but I don't know why it wouldn't come into two different ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to let you know, I was going to type up the report, but I can't really do that since I've only been listening on here, but I haven't been typing it as I've been listening.
Oh, okay. I think the replay will probably be okay, though.
Okay, I can try that.
Yeah.
The other question I had is, do you think there's any long-term plans to put Benoit back in the title?
Not right now. No, they're not even thinking in that direction. Eventually, over the next 3 years, will he get it again? Good chance, but, yeah, right now, no, it's not. It's just not in the cards for the next 6 months or so, unless they change their plans.
All right, thanks, and I'll check and try and see if I can get it to work in the morning.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks much, Neil. Okay, we're going to go to Dave. Dave, what's going on?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
I actually just got Sirius Radio about 3 weeks ago and just discovered this show last week. So you can imagine how excited I am. We actually have a wrestling show where wrestling fans can, express their voice and actually be heard.
Yeah. I think Sirius is going to take the show to a new level, especially in about a year when, a little over a year when Stern comes on. I'm jazzed, I'll tell you.
Oh, it's awesome, and I'm loving every minute of it. It gives me a lot of company when I get home from work, and I'm actually going to buy the home kit so I can listen to it at home as well, because I just love your show.
Oh, thanks so much.
Well, first thing I want to talk about is, do you notice how the WWE seems to be really hurting for storylines? I think, WWE's done some bad stuff over the years, but the Gene Snitsky baby killer, I think that's possibly the worst storyline I've ever heard. I think it's incredibly tasteless. And, there's still, Trish Stratus made a comment about it last week. They kicked her in the stomach. It just keeps going to a new low.
Yeah, well, they're desperate. I mean, it's a very hard time for the industry. I mean, this is the weirdest industry, when you follow as long as me, because there's times when it's like you can do no wrong and you can just be, really not have a clue what you're doing and you can still make money, like Eric Bischoff did. And then there's times where you can be really good and it's just the wrong time and it's not going to work. And I'm not saying that they're really good and it's the wrong time, because right now some of the WWE, certainly early this year, there was some incredible stuff on Raw, some great wrestling matches. And some of the stuff is good now, but storyline-wise and continuity-wise on the Raw side, I've been very disappointed. I think it's actually, in some ways, SmackDown is better, but SmackDown, has a Tough Enough thing going on, and it limits, it really cuts down the wrestling time, and also on SmackDown, nobody's over, so that also hurts too.
Well, I think you can only see Triple H as champion for so long.
That's what they don't understand. Right. It's what I said earlier. Triple H is really, really good. It's just his time is over, and the idea that you can be on week in and week out for 8 years on the same TV as a heel, that's a run. It's not effective. And Triple H's run is over. And the problem is that the company is being run for Triple H to be a star because he's part of the royal family, and it's just very counterproductive. And we've seen what's happened. And it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse because they don't realize what the problem is, and they don't have a solution. I can tell you, that Triple H is as champion, and everyone calls, one person after the other. We've had, and for months now, probably, with Triple H on top, we need somebody new. But they've killed everyone else. No one else is going to be any better either. So it's like, they made a lot of mistakes in 2000 and 2001 when they had a big audience, when they had a big viewing audience, and they had a lot of guys coming up like Benoit and Jericho, and they missed the timing. This is a entertainment business about timing, and they missed the timing on Benoit by several years. They missed the timing on Jericho by several years, and you can't get it back. And you know we're gonna watch that happen again this week too.
Well, and the other thing I want to talk about, I mean, I totally agree, but I'm a recent fan of TNA. And, you know, I was a little skeptical at first. Okay, here's another upstart organization. But they have some really innovative wrestlers, particularly AJ Styles and one of the greatest wrestling moves I've ever seen, which is the Canadian Destroyer.
Yeah, that's the move of the year, Canadian Destroyer, no doubt.
I've never seen a move done like that, and it's gotten me really into it. And I've bought every single one of the pay-per-views. In fact, I'm watching Victory Road right now, and I'm absolutely loving it.
It's a good show because I mean I'm watching it, but I have the sound off because I'm doing this show. But so I don't know if it's a good show or a bad show. But I hope it's. I know for them. Excuse me. I know for them that it needs to be a good show, and I hope it's a great show.
Well, I mean, I think they're doing the right thing. They brought in Piper. I don't know if you caught this. They brought in Superfly Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah, I saw that, and they ended up saving each other or something, right?
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
And you know they have a lot of wrestlers who a lot of people consider WWE rejects, but these are people that the WWE gave up on. Jeff Jarrett being one of them, Jeff Hardy being one of the main ones. That these are great wrestlers, and they're just.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I mean, Jeff Hardy has no passion for it anymore. And the WWE made the right choice when it came to him. I mean, they had no choice. I mean, when it came to Jeff and Jeff Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett is the Triple H of the TNA company. I mean, he runs the company, and it's too much of his playground, and it's really hurt the company. It's hurt TNA, I think, a lot. I think that both companies have to realize that the day of the dominating heel champion, I think that's passé, because I think that you need to give the people someone who they like and they can count on and they have faith in. And both companies have done a horrible job of building that person. And I think that's one of the reasons why both of them are having troubles.
Well, I think one of the main things is that, even though Jarrett is a champion, Jarrett can play a decent heel, but they still have him using the same, guitar finish ending that they did in WWE, and they have to realize that doesn't work.
It's passé, that whole style. I mean, I'll tell you when I talk about like the Ring of Honor and everything, and it's not for everyone, but I would say that style, when I watch it, it really opens my eyes when you see a world title match. The greatest thing they do is they don't have referee bumps, they don't have run-ins in the title match, they don't have guitar shot finishes, they don't have belt shot finishes. Samoa Joe wins with chokeouts, and it's just a refreshing thing, and if they again, they don't have a lot of exposure and they don't have a lot of name talent, but I think that they have a better idea of how to put on a good show than right now WWE does, and certainly better than TNA does as well.
Well, this is the first time I've ever heard of Ring of Honor today. Where would I get copies of the Ring of Honor tapes?
You can go to ROH.com and they'll have tapes of every one of the shows, and they put on really good shows. I would say, again, I haven't seen this one, but based on what I've heard, the tape of last night's show in Elizabeth, New Jersey with Jushin Liger, I heard it was a excellent show. And a lot of their shows, I mean, they've done a lot of them. A lot of the Samoa Joe Bryan Danielson match, which I also have not seen, but everyone raves about, which was from early October. I think that's another one to see. Hopefully I'll see that one within the next week or two.
And the last thing, I'll let you go. I know you got a lot of other callers. Where do I subscribe to your newsletter?
You can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there'll be info on in the headline section on how to get subscription, as well as how to get some. You can get free issues with a long-term subscription. So you just go up there, and that's how you can do it.
All right, excellent, Matt. Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, keep up the good work. I look forward to many more calls with you over the years.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. God, everybody has been so nice tonight. What is going on? What is going on? I haven't had so many people talk about the show like this ever in history. What's going on tonight, Buzz? I like it. Right now we got the three-way going with Abyss, Raven, and Monty Brown, and Abyss pulled out a bag, which I certainly presume has thumbtacks in it, which he's about to pour out. Monty Brown just did a big, kind of like a one-arm power slam on Abyss, which for a big, on a big guy like that, it was pretty impressive. Abyss has the bag, and I think we're going to have, yes, we are. We have thumbtacks on the mat, and They're spread all over the place, and Monty Brown is sitting on the top ropes about to get superplexed, and that isn't pretty. That's not a pretty thought at all. Anyway, we'll get to the calls right after this, basically after this spot ends, because I want to see how they get out of this one. This is Monty Brown's set up. It looks like this is going to superplex him on Monty Brown on the thumbtacks, and he's climbing the ropes slowly, obviously, and setting up the superplex slowly. He's got it hooked, and Monty Brown just blocked. Monty Brown blocked again, and Monty Brown is about to reverse it, and he's throwing a series of punches. Abyss is losing balance, and Abyss came back with some headbutts. They're teasing the spot for a long time. Here comes Raven, and Raven has got Abyss and has just powerbombed him into 100,000 thumbtacks, and I'm glad I'm not Abyss right this moment. Okay, we're going to go to Alan in Queens. Alan, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, how are you doing tonight?
Doing really good.
I heard you coughing a while back, a few seconds ago. Are you okay tonight?
Yeah, I'm fine. I got a little bit of a cold, so yeah, but I'm fine.
All right, I hope you get better. Anyways, I was wondering, was Psychosis tonight Nicho or is it AAA?
It was Nicho. Yeah.
Really? He grew his hair back, or he had a wig on?
Yeah, I didn't look at it closely. He might have had he's always had the wig on, so I'll bet you that's who it was. I mean, I know it was Nicho though. Yeah, for sure.
Wait, so it's legal for him to be a Psychosis in the United States? I forget how.
He's been Psychosis in the United States and not Nicho most of the time. So, the Mexican case that he lost, I think that, I don't think that Pena ever trademarked the name Psychosis for the United States in the first place.
All right.
So, yeah, I think it's legal for him to use that name.
All right. The main question I was going to ask you tonight was, a few months ago on Bout Review, Shu Harada, one of the head reporters for Bout Review, was talking about the case of Ogawa and Hashimoto a few years back, and he wrote it out that a shoot occurred. Ogawa shot on Hashimoto because Inoki told him to. Is that true, or is that a supposed shoot actually at work?
That was a real interesting one. It was the first. It wasn't the first Hashimoto Ogawa, but they had a feud early in Ogawa's career. Then they had a second feud in the first match of the second feud. What happened was they came up with the idea, and Hashimoto knew what was going on. He wasn't being double crossed.
All right.
Ogawa knew what was going on, and it was a shoot. I mean, it was a shoot in the sense of, we're going to go out there and you're going to shoot as long as you can, and they knew that Ogawa was going to beat up Hashimoto. And in fact, it made Ogawa a superstar, and it hurt Hashimoto a lot because he was not competitive at all in that shoot. And the idea was, as soon as things get a little bit tough, for Hashimoto, you hit the referee, and then we end it, and it's a DQ finish. So the finish was planned, but yes, it was a shoot. It was a very bizarre situation.
Oh, has anything else like
that? But it wasn't, like a lot of people portrayed as, oh my God, Ogawa's so unprofessional. And at times he's been. But in this case, Hashimoto was well aware of it. They had worked it out, and nobody else knew. I mean, it was kind of kept a secret. But it later came out in the press there that, in fact, Hashimoto was well aware of what was going to happen, and the story was that, you're going to go out there and shoot, and as soon as you get too blown up, or you're about to get hurt, you hit the ref, and then we end the thing. And it was just a way to make Ogawa into a big shooter, a shooter star. Because Hashimoto had the shooter reputation in pro wrestling at the time, and it helped Ogawa a lot as a drawing card, especially for TV. I mean, he became a real big deal, off of that match. So yeah, that's what happened with.
Why would Hashimoto agree to it? I know the boss.
He didn't have a choice. I mean, that's just what it was. Inoki runs the company, and Inoki's out of his mind. And sometimes guys who are out of their mind stumble onto something that's good. And usually when they do, and like this one, the first one, actually, I mean, it was like a Bret Hart, Vince McMahon Survivor Series thing. In Japan, it was like a real big deal, and it was a success at first. But what happened was they don't know when to stop, and they don't know when to stop going down a road and keep milking a dry cow, so to speak.
All right.
And in the long run, it obviously did everyone more harm than good, except for Ogawa, because he's still a star until the Fedor thing.
All right, that explains why Ogawa and Hash are able to work together in 0-1. I thought that was kind of odd.
Oh yeah. It was a fantastic feud, and everyone believed in the feud. But the fact is that it was not a real feud.
All right, so my other question is in regards to Akira Maeda, but nothing about his in-ring, but when Yoji Anjo attacked him, that was a shoot, right? That was
yeah. That was at a UFC show. I remember it was at some show when he
UFC Japan.
UFC Japan. Okay, so Yoji Anjo came from behind, or actually from the side, and ran in and just sucker punched him when he was doing an interview with a reporter. And you know, Maeda has done things similar to other people, so a lot of people did that as like poetic justice, so to speak. But yeah, he was sucker punched, and that was real. That wasn't a wrestling angle or anything like that.
Then Maeda sucker punched the Pancrase president, right? Ozaki, right?
Yeah, I think that he got sued over that one when Ozaki was talking to Jeremy Horn, and I think that Maeda sucker punched Keiji Muto in the '80s once at a bar, and you know, Maeda, he's different. That's all I can say. He made a name for it. You know, obviously the Riki Choshu thing was one of the most unprofessional things I've ever seen, and yet it made him a star. It's wrestling's very strange like that.
Is it true that Maeda was arrested in this country for attacking his girlfriend or a waitress? I heard a story about that.
I think it was his girlfriend. Yeah.
Wait, I mean, how do people do that stuff on TV and not expect judicial repercussions?
I don't think that was
Anjo attacked him.
I don't think that
Anjo attacked him because of something happened in their past, right?
That was his girlfriend. Who knows? You know what happens between guys and girls. You know, I don't have any respect for guys with girls, but a lot of guys do when they lose their temper. But yeah, that's what happened there. But that wasn't on TV. But as far as why guys do what they do or something, I mean, wrestling's got some characters. You know, that's all I can say. And you know, some of the stories of the lives of wrestlers. I mean, like, you know, the Steve Austin and Tess, you know, Broussard. I mean, it's like, my God, you read it and you just think this can't be real, and it actually is. You know, I mean, they're outside the ring stories are often wilder than anything anyone can come up with a script.
Yeah, truth is out of the fiction. But Anjo attacked him because Maeda sucker punched Anjo in the past when they were in the UWF.
I don't know what the reason was. I mean, it was. You know, as far as why Anjo did it, they had a big feud in the press. I don't know that Maeda ever did it. He may have, but it was more, you know, when the UWFI and rings were both like, you know, pretty big in the '90s. There was a lot, and Pancrase, a lot of guys said a lot of things because they were, you know, trying to make their company look the best.
Right.
And you know, like I think there were grandstand challenges made and things like that. But the UWFI people
challenge after he won the belt in the UWFI.
Yeah, the UWFI people, for the most part, all hated Maeda at that point.
Right.
Okay.
All right. And last question.
Sure.
How was it like? I didn't hear the show yet, but how was it like to be interviewed by PPH? Now that you're on the other side, being interviewed, how did it feel? Just wondering.
Oh, it was cool. I mean, I enjoyed that. Was I've done a lot of the radio. I've done a lot of radio stuff and internet stuff since my last book came out. And I mean, they had far and away the best questions of anyone, and I had more time. I mean, I had more fun with Mike and Keith than I would say. You know, I would say any interview I've done. So I mean, because I mean they know their stuff. That was great.
Zach Arnold didn't interview. He wasn't part of the interview.
Zach wasn't there. No, it was Mike and Keith only.
All right, I was just wondering because I heard that there was a little heat between you two.
From my standpoint, there's not. I mean, you know, there probably is. One of the things that's happened, you know, one of the things that happens is, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't really talk about this, but I've always sensed that, you know, I came in, you know, I came in and did this, you know, and I've been doing this longer than anybody else, and I've been more successful doing it than anybody else, and I think that, you know, that breeds a lot, that breeds a lot of jealousy. And, you know, and I'm far from perfect and I make mistakes, you know, all the time, but I think that a lot of people are just, you know, and sometimes, you know, if I screw up, but a lot of times I will read stuff, about me screwing up and I'm reading it and I'm going like, you know, the person who says that I screwed up here doesn't know 1/10 of what the story is and has no clue what they're talking about. I see that all the time too, so, you know, but that's just what happens.
All right, it was good to be on the show again. It was a great show. And one last final note, I noticed that, Volk Han's on the next Bushido Lithuania card, which is a Rings Lithuania type show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's on a Bushido.lt. It's in Lithuanian though, so I wouldn't be able to read it, but his name's actually on the card, and he's against Ricardo Rovicius. But was he arrested a while back?
Who? Volkan?
Yes.
I have not heard. I mean, it could be. I don't know. I haven't heard any. I hadn't heard Volkan's name in a long, long time, except every year at the Hall of Fame time when, everyone brings up, if he should be in or not. But yeah, Volkan. I bet, he's pretty much retired from Japan. He was Volkan. That man was an awesome mat wrestler, like one of the best I ever saw.
I agree with that.
Oh man, what a great wrestler he was. Okay, we gotta get.
Nice talking to you. Have a nice night.
Okay, let's go to Tim. Tim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, what's going on?
Hey, I got a quick question. One quick question. How can you catch up on Hall of Fame type wrestlers, guys who ain't necessarily made it? If you wonder where they are, like Kevin Von Erich or the guys who you saw at one point and don't see, the Macho Man.
Macho Man, you're going to be seeing. Macho Man will be hearing about in about an hour. Kevin Von Erich's home in Texas. He's pretty much out of the wrestling business, although he just came out with a DVD of the old Von Erich tapes. But the whereabouts of most of these guys is pretty well known. Wrestling has become a pretty. It used to be a community where there was very little information, and now there's just a community where there's an incredible amount of information that's out. So pretty much. Everyone, there's no one in seclusion. I mean, even there were guys that used to disappear. I think that almost any old star, we pretty much know where they are these days.
Okay, like my question is, I say I'm a truck driver. One of the biggest things that's happened, I bought Sirius Satellite Radio.
Yep.
And I get to hear you guys at different points, man. It's a plus to be able to get out here at night, some nights, find you guys and hear you.
Yeah, we're on every Sunday.
Good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I listen to it. It's really good. But then you get out here and you can't see the shows when you're working as much as you want to, and you miss, why certain things stop. Like back a couple years ago when the Macho Man was in WCW, he was doing a thing with the girls where he would bring them out, man. It just would look like chaos would be in the ring, but it was something you had to watch, how he would direct them, man. And it would look like they would go in the ring and get ready to destroy somebody. Then he'd come in and just kill them.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder why they never bring something like that back. Would say like these women they got now, who they pretty good, but he was something. It was like, damn, that's wild. That's something different.
Can't really answer that question. AJ Styles has just done a flip dive over the top, and there's been this AJ Styles Pete Williams match is up right now, and it's been. Definitely a really high-flying, fast-paced match so far, and a lot of people look at this one as probably being the best match on the show. And certainly, based on what I've seen, it's not lacking any effort, that's for sure. AJ Styles and Petey Williams are having a match, and it's looking to me like it's a really good match. As we go off the air, the pay-per-view is still going on. We'll have a rundown in a little while. Late tonight, probably, on the website, we'll have the results and some of the highlights of the pay-per-view. I'll put that up after I watch the whole thing on tape. Chris in Toronto, we probably only have time for one last caller. How are you doing, Chris?
Good. I know I have to be quick, so I guess I'll get this really fast. You sound like you have SARS, so I hope you feel better. And just a question, why do you guys keep putting Mick Foley over?
In what sense?
The Fan Fest thing he did, where he said he'd offer everyone $1,000 or a split of his pay.
I think that was pretty generous to try to save the show, yeah. I would.
He's a fraud. He knew nobody would take it. Not one person took that.
No one took it, but the fact is that he offered it, so what makes that a fraud?
Because he knew nobody would take it?
Do you think that he knew nobody would take it? I wouldn't have known nobody would take it.
I believe he knew nobody would take it.
Okay, well, it was an offer. I don't know how that makes him a fraud, though.
Absolutely, it makes him a fraud.
Well, okay, here's another thing about that. You realize that, as far as doing it, if I hadn't have reported it, nobody would have known he did it. And so, what was the point of the whole thing then? What's his upside for all this?
Makes him look like a hero.
If I hadn't reported it, no one would have even known. He did it in secret. It just so happens that the thing turned out the way it was, and when I found out what he said in front of 3 or 4 people, basically Jim Cornette, Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey, Ricky Morton, and Robert Gibson. It's not like he said it over the PA. It's not like that the story was going to get out anywhere else. So he had no way of knowing that story would ever even get out, and he certainly wasn't doing it for his own PR. So, I think that you're missing the point of this one. Anyway, we got to go. We're totally out of time. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.